I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Tamar Berk is a prolific indie rock musician now based in San Diego. Her fifth album in 5 years, OCD, is due for release on the 5th of September, and having had a good listen through it, it's a great modern retro album, if you know what I mean. In her own words, sonically, it's a fuzzed-out, reverb-heavy swirl, somewhere between indie pop rock and a fever dream. I'd agree with that, and that there's so many layers to this album, you'll find something you hadn't heard on probably the first 10 listens or so. We've chatted previously in the Being Independent series, but now we're going to talk almost exclusively about the new album. Hi, Tamar. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello. I'm very excited to share about songwriting. I can talk about songwriting all day.
Let's not.
I know. I just love the process. The whole process is very much where I live on a day-to-day.
So firstly, congratulations on another great album.
Thank you. I'm so glad you liked it.
You've gone for a simple title with this one, OCD. Why did you feel this was something you wanted to open up about at this particular time?
Well, I wrote the song OCD. And as I was finishing all the songs for the album and thinking about a title, I just realized that so many of them were about the way that I think through things and spiral and become obsessive. It's about my dreams. It's about what I say. It's about putting my foot in my mouth. It's about obsessing about conversations. And all of them just came back to that. And I just thought, this is kind of a bold thing to call my album, but I think I'm just going to do it. It was the only thing that felt the most fitting.
I know you like to take your destiny in your own hands. Do you think that is partly due to the OCD?
Yes, it is, because in my head, I make these goals and kind of touch points in sort of a linear way that I go about things. When somebody inserts themselves in the picture, if it doesn't fit within the context of how I think it needs to go, it's very hard for me to pivot. So for instance, if I was going to be signed to a label, they'd be like, well, we need to wait 3 months for your release to come out. Or you need first, or this isn't the single we want, or you would not be in charge of the decisions and the way that I foresee the album rolling out, the way I foresee it looking, all of those decisions is implanted in my brain in a way. And so to answer your question, it'd be very, very, very hard to pivot.
Well, that's answered the next question as well, so that's good. So the album has an obvious theme, as stated in the title, but tell us a little more about what people can expect to hear and some of the roller coaster ride moments that are on the album.
I wanted to explore a lot of different kinds of songs, rhythms, slower paced songs that rock, though. I think I go back to my usual tendency of like mid to fast tempo indie pop rock songs to create like an energy. But I was really challenging myself to find energy in the slower tempo rockers, adding a lot more reverb with my voice, a lot more raw statements about how I felt without overthinking a lot of the lyrics, and a lot more big muff and big chords. A new lead guitar player joined on this album, which was wonderful because he was in that mindset that I was in, big, booming, so as much detailed, as much as vibey, with big reverb and big, huge lines on the guitars. And the whole album came together in bits and pieces. I did not know that OCD was going to be the title. I Had a Dream I Was Lost in an Auditorium was one of the first tracks I wrote, and Time Zone and Ghost Story. So I was looking at those lyrics, like Time Zone, about feeling obsessive when my partner is leaving and traveling somewhere else, and my obsessive thoughts about like what he's doing, what I'm doing, we're not connecting. Like this became like a very difficult song, because it was also very heartbreaking, because I felt that feeling of just being left out and not cared for, you know? And then Auditorium, about feeling those obsessive dreams about making mistakes, you know, is about being lost in an auditorium. It was about a big show that I had and having that typical anxiety dream. I just couldn't find the stage. I forgot all the lyrics. It was like, and in the meantime, still navigating your daily life every day. But in the back of your mind, you have this big show, this big responsibility, and you're still trying to get through the day-to-day life of things when my mind is like occupied. Ghost Stories was probably one of the most difficult songs I wrote, because I realized that was about relationships that have come and gone, people that have just left and ghosted me and also have died, literally are ghosts. The album, every song has a little bit of a story behind it. But I think the overall thing is I want to explore harder themes, darker themes, and make this album flow in a way that's going into my brain with me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great monologue. I think somebody should perform that.
Yeah, I know. Okay, good. I did well. And it wasn't too long.
So I'm going to pick up on a few bits of songs that I noticed. I did notice the reference to Joy Division in There Are Benefits to Mixed Emotions.
Yes.
Is that a childhood favorite of yours?
That song is true. I believe there are benefits to mixed emotions. And I've been reading a lot more about that, and was listening to like a lot of psychology podcasts about the fact that when we can't make decisions easily, when we're torn in making decisions, it's an actual survival mechanism. There's something telling us you might not need to make a decision right now, or it's not a good time to make a decision. And I loved that thought, because when we're growing up, we're told, is it yes or no? Is it black or white? Do you want to eat this? Do you not want to eat this? Make a decision, make a decision, make a decision. And you're grown up thinking you can't be indecisive. That's a form of weakness, you know? And I loved hearing this new flip on that it's okay and actually good to recognize when you have mixed emotions about something and you're not sure. Your question about Joy Division is like, me and my partner would have these hard conversations about decision making. And we would get to this point where like, we don't know what the right answer is. And we'd be in the car driving, and we'd put on Spotify, and like both of our favorite like top 5 artists is Joy Division. And boom, Joy Division would come on. It just felt so appropriate to like sit there, having not made a decision, being okay with it, and driving. A lot of our long drives going to LA, going to Vegas, or wherever we travel to, inevitably, the first thing that comes on, whether it's Apple or Spotify, is a Joy Division song, because we play that band so much. It's one of our favorite songs, but also like it's a dark band, you know, knowing the story of that. But it also seems appropriate to feel like, let's just drive, not being okay with not making a decision and just listening to Joy Division. It's a comfort for us too.
The harpsichord. I love the harpsichord in I Had a Dream I Was Lost in an Auditorium. There's not enough harpsichord in pop music.
I know. Thank you. And I would put more in, but I love the harpsichord. And there's something about that song. So when the harpsichord comes in, it's the bridge. And I was thinking so much about the Beach Boys in that part. And I had a friend of mine playing trumpet along with the synths, but he also, not to my knowledge until he sent the tracks back, he was playing this other smaller trumpet, and it's called like a flugelhorn. Yes, and it had this incredible tone to it. It was like a woo, very 60s vibe. And I was like, oh gosh, I really need to put some harpsichord in this part, because the band kind of drops out And it really feels like it needs this kind of 60s, because at the beginning of that song, I've got the gum, 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 that beat of the girl groups of the 60s. So I'm like, okay, and I've got trumpets. I'm going to put some harpsichord in. So yes, thank you for noticing that. I think I have harpsichord on at least one song on every one of my albums.
And finally, I got a very, from the song Tell Me Why, to me, it seemed to be almost your Bob Dylan moment.
It is, yes. Now, when I wrote that song, that was one of my older demos. I had done it with a friend of mine on ukulele. And the state of the world, I was like, it would be really nice if I had just a non-produced, lo-fi little ditty near the end of the album. And I was looking at some old YouTube videos on some of my secret YouTube channels. A lot of times I post videos and privatize them so that I could just have a record of songs that I've written. Sometimes they're on my phone and just my phone memos. But I saw this one of me and my friend doing this harmony on this song called Mama, Won't You Tell Me Why? And I was like, this is such a wonderful little song. And it has the Bob Dylan repetitive refrain in it. And I was like, what if I add some harpsichord and actually go for it? Did not know that I would put it on the album. And in fact, when it was in the track listing and I played it for some of my trusted allies, they were like, I'm not sure this song fits on the album. I like it, but I don't know if it fits. But in my heart, I know that it fit because I felt like this is where I am right now. I am thinking about the world and the innocence of the child looking at the world right now and asking questions and wanting them to actually understand before they move into adulthood. Because a lot of kids, like you said, they look at social media, they believe what they hear, but the whole theme of that song is I need to understand things before I do things and make a stand on things. The harmonica was not in the original demo. That's what really took it into the Bob Dylan era. Yeah. And so I listened to his first album and I was trying to get a vibe of how he played so simply, but so effectively. And so I tried to emulate that actually, and just kind of put it in the refrains, the little musical breaks. And so, yes, thank you for that. Of course, it's going to have a Dylan vibe.
No, it's a beautiful. I think that being the penultimate track and then going into the final sort of, it's not a massive tune, but it has a build in that last track and it finishes on that one drum. And that's the way you finish an album.
Thank you. I loved recording Ghost Stories. And, a little note on that one. When I wrote that, I was in Portland. I was traveling and it was pouring rain. It was dark. The view outside my window was just homeless people eating out of garbage cans. And it was just a dirty, grimy day. And I was so down that day for other reasons. And just like my view through the window, the rainy window. And I was feeling so sad about certain things. And I wrote the verse of that and just cried and then just left it. And then I came back to my studio and I was looking for, things that I've written to put on the album. And I was like, oh, that is major song. Like that's like, if I go into that song, that's going to be heavy, but I had to. And that's a very deep and hard, difficult song for me to have put out there, but I'm proud that
you do that with your songs though, don't you? I mean, you do tend to, it's the way you express yourself and you get out your emotions generally, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. It's 100%. And I kind of feel like it's out there now. And if anybody wanted to ask about how I felt about certain things, which is what the first line is, if somebody asks, what should I say? And then I kind of answer it throughout the song. So I mean, it's kind of its own little telling to the world the way that I feel about things and the way that I see the world without me having to talk to them or talk about it.
Looking at your website, you've really documented your life with a variety of pictures on your album covers. I've listened to all the albums as they've come out, but I hadn't thought about it until I scrolled down the front page of your website. Have you gone with pictures from your past that define the mood of the album?
Well, with the Restless Dreams of Youth, the thing about that photo was I was in Paris and I was with a boyfriend at the time. You know, when you know your relationship's not going to last, but you try to go on this last big trip together and maybe it will rekindle whatever. It was a miserable trip in some ways, but in other ways, we had fun. And that moment where we're at a cafe in Paris, smoking a cigarette, drinking coffee, feeling the youthful nostalgia of that, carefree nostalgia, was what I wanted to capture on the Restless Dreams of Youth. And then when I started writing, Start at the End, the idea of that was I wanted a picture of myself, but the idea of that was a very sad album. That was the one when my father passed away during the making of that album, and I did not want it to be coming across as a sad, Start at the End is a positive statement technically. And I was flipping through some other pictures and I saw this picture of me at a New Year's party, and I'm kind of blowing this horn haphazardly. And but the idea of New Year's is already, a new beginning at the end of another. And I thought, well, that's very appropriate. And I didn't look very happy. And again, this was the end of a relationship. He was sitting right next to me in that picture, actually. So I was like, okay, that captures a different look and a different time and the theme for sure. And then with Tiny Injuries, what I loved about that high school picture is not only the braces, but that also captured a time when I was, dancing in a ballet company. I was still in high school. I was extremely thin. I was in between being a kid and an adult, but I'm massively smiling with this just, great big. And I thought that is such an interesting cover for the word Tiny Injuries, one of my favorite covers for sure. In going into Good Times for a Change, I wanted to be in the present day, because saying good times for a change, is admitting, okay, maybe I need to be here today and think about changing moving forward. So that's a self-portrait that I took. And then this last album, so this actually had a lot of thought to it. I wanted to wear a suit, and I was thinking about the idea of having a suit on as if you're ready to go out into the world and do something important, but you're stuck, and I was like, what if I'm in bed, ready to go, but I'm just not going anywhere, so I look like I'm ready to go somewhere, but I'm really not going anywhere. But I have my guitar with me and, the typewriter there. And it really captures that feeling of that kind of is me. Like I'm always ready to go, but then I'm like, I don't think I'm going to go. I need to be by myself. And I think that's kind of, yeah. Thank you for asking about the album covers. A lot of thought goes into them. A lot of OCD things go into.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So you've got a Chicago show lined up for your album release at the end of September. Are there more shows planned and in the works, or is that just going to be a one-off?
Well, we're probably going to do an album release show here in town, but after we come back, and then I'll be doing some solo things and trying to book some more shows. Now that I have found a drummer here in town, and now that he pretty much knows the set and all of the songs that I like to play off of all the albums, I could introduce one here and there. I feel confident that I could book a show. And it's always hard. It's always hard as a solo artist when you have very specific requirements. You really want, it's not a band in a way. It is, but the songs have been recorded and there's a way that I like them to be played. We always make little arrangement changes, but they're not being written as a band. So having and finding somebody who's willing to learn them is such a blessing. And I found somebody great. His name's John Perkins, and he's in town, and he really likes the songs, and he's been learning them, and it sounds great. So that's a real blessing to find, because a drummer who can find time and not in a million other projects and also enjoys your songs is a blessing. Anybody who likes my songs, I feel very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually, for anyone who hasn't heard it, we delve much more into that side of things in the previous podcast.
We do. We definitely do.
I'd like to say the room you've moved to, I love the artwork behind you.
Oh, that's my painting.
That's yours. Wow. Now there's an album cover waiting to happen, but maybe more for my weird psychedelic stuff than
That's
yours.
when I do. Yes, that's when I do. Actually, hint, hint. The title track, OCD, the video is coming out on release day, September 5th. And the video for OCD is coming out, and it will feature some of my paintings in it. So I'm glad you brought that up. My paintings are actually for sale. I actually have a website for them too.
So, knowing you,
yes,
I need to ask how many songs you've written for album 6.
Okay, so I was just thinking about this. I think that I'm going to do demos and B-side album because I think it's interesting for me and maybe for people who have followed me to hear some of the demos and some of the B-sides that never made it on some of the albums. I'll say the reason for that is this album took so much out of me. I was feeling very burned out. When you have my brain, it's so fucking exhausting. Like I wish I could turn it off. Now, on the one hand, I can take medication. I can numb myself. I don't want to do that. It's not me. I don't want to feel less or have my brain be obsessing any less. It's not easy sometimes for people around me or myself, but there is a point where I get so exhausted from this swirling, repetitive things that go through my head. And this kind of happened on this album for sure. Of course, I would love to put album 6 out, but I might take a break and do it in a different way this time with B-sides and some demos.
The second you said demos, I wanted to tell a story. Now,
yeah,
I never understood bands that released demo albums. I never got it at all. And then during COVID, PJ Harvey, who I never understood at all, released all the demos from all of her albums.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly I understood PJ Harvey and I understood why she does what she does the way she does it. And it just clicked. Demo albums now, I'm like, I will always listen to them. You know, love them and hate them. It's 50-50 or probably 60-40 on the side of disliking them. But yeah, as a songwriter myself, it really does help to get into the head of the artist I'm studying or listening to.
The demo thing for me is always fascinating because the song never ends up sounding like the demo. It goes places. And so when you have an artist, let's say, like you said, like PJ Harvey or Liz Phair, who I loved listening to her demos, and then how they eventually turned out on Exile and Guyville, the choices that were made and the instrumentation that they chose is exactly the place that I live all the time with my songs, because I write a little bit of a demo, a verse and a chorus, record it in my phone and live with it. And then I listen and obsess over it and think, how am I going to produce this? And it's the same way. So when I go back to my demos, I'm like, wow, I really took this far. Or wow, where did that choice come from? But they both are good in their own way. And the thing about the demo is it is from that time when I wrote it. So there's this intense emotional release without a lot of overthinking. And sometimes the vocals are terrible. Sometimes the sound is terrible. I'm hoping to pick and choose a couple from each album. You know, like if I pick, because I've got 5 albums now, so that would be 10 tracks, 2 from each album, and then maybe some B-sides, like 4 B-sides or something. Could be really fun. I don't think I would release it on vinyl or CD. I might just release a digital version of it. I haven't decided yet.
That sounds interesting. You should definitely do that. Yeah, and do take a break, because sometimes you need to walk away to get the inspiration to write something even better.
Yeah, for sure.
So the final question, what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
I usually listen to new releases from big artists just to see kind of what they're putting out there. I got to tell you, I have comfort zones, and so I always tend to go back to the same comfort zones, the David Bowie albums, the Beatles albums. The safe place for me is always Lana Del Rey or ELO. I have to be honest, I go back to very much those comfort zones. New music, if I hear it on my DJ on Spotify, I will like it and go back and listen to more of their stuff. There's some wonderful new indie artists out there. It is hard to navigate because there's so much.
That's why this show exists.
I know. The thing is a lot of them sound the same. There's part of the sameness that I like. Like I like some of that sound. There's a lot of really nice shoegazy bands right now with female singers that I'm attracted to, that kind of like vibe. But I couldn't tell you a name. It's just something on my playlist. I'm like, oh, I like this. And I just like it. So I'll check it out later. And then I inevitably never check it out and never know who it is and just hope the DJ plays it again.
For anyone wishing to find out more, your website, Instagram, and Bandcamp are probably the best places to look, aren't they?
Yeah, so Bandcamp has all my vinyl, including this new record, and you could get it now even before it's out streaming. And it's a gatefold with all the lyrics in it, a CD, and it's a digipack. No lyrics are in that, but if you're interested, I can send you the lyrics. And of course, I do have my digital library. It's on sale, so you can buy everything. There's a couple different versions of some songs on my last album that you can get included. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm on Deezer, I'm on Tidal. Like, when you have a digital distributor, as you know, it's
on all of them.
Yeah.
As is this podcast now.
Yeah, which is great. So find me. I love messages and hearing what you guys think of songs and which songs you can really relate to.
OCD by Tamar Berk is out on September the 5th, both physically through Bandcamp and via all streaming platforms. Great to catch up again, Tamar, and good luck with the new album.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your inviting me again. You are such a great supporter of indie musicians, for real. People like you and us, we got to stick together in this crazy world of social media.
Yeah, or anti-social media, as I call it.
Yeah, anti-social media, exactly.
Thank you very much. We will speak again next year when album 6 comes out, probably.
Something will, yeah.